Hey everybody, and welcome to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho Mash, owner of the Smash News Network. Today we're talking about sunspots, solar flares, cosmology and metallicity of globular clusters, and the October contest gets quantified. First thing we're going to do is look at the sun, the most important star in your cosmology. Please leave a comment if you're viewing the videos from a different solar system, galaxy, universe, timeline, plane of existence, spaceship, etc. This is a colorized magnetogram composite along with 171 angstroms. Active region rising in the northeast. Sunspot 2777 setting in the southwest. And a little bit of flaring coming out of Sunspot 2776, moving into the Earth-facing region. Let's take a look at the view from L5 here, Lagrange point 5. As we see some coronal mass ejecta here. It is somewhat Earth-facing. And let's actually bring up an image here, a SOHO image. And we're going to actually load one here for you in real time to get the latest data. Next, we've got a view. It's a one-day view here in 193 angstroms. Major coronal holes there associated with the North Pole region. Some more diffuse ones here around the equator. And south of the North Pole. And this one here is now moving into a non-Earth facing zone. And we're expecting a coronal hole wind stream from that possibly today. Would be today or late today, maybe early tomorrow. Next, let's do some custom helioviewer movies. Here are the magnetic fields associated with Sunspot 2776. Anybody's guess as to whether that main umbra is growing or shrinking? We did see some light bridges going across it, an indication it may be degrading, but the magnetic fields don't seem to be breaking down in this view. And that sunspot is about the diameter of Mars, about 5,000 kilometers. Here's that active region rising in the northeast. And we try to stay on top of this as we like to do things like forecast sunspots, coronal mass ejections, even the magnetic field environment of the heliosphere long before anybody else, including NASA and all of your favorite, most pathetic YouTube channels who earn 5 figures a month to tell you half-truths. And here's the LASCO C2. Let's see where we see ejecta. And it looks like the ejecta from that most recent coronal mass ejection is also going to miss to the west. See, it's headed out in that direction. The SOHO spacecraft, the site of the LASCO C2 coronagraph, is located at Lagrange point 1. Here's another close-up of Sunspot 2776. In 304 angstroms, ionized helium spectra. Not a whole lot of changes, but there is a plasma bridge going across it. And again, we saw 2 B-class flares just recently. Here's the same area in 171 angstroms. You can see a little bit of coronal mass ejection happening right toward the middle. It is associated with one of those flares, I believe. We'll let that play through one more time, and then we'll move on to more data about what's going on in space. By the way, if you weren't aware, I'm a subject matter expert. I have been hired by corporations to learn people's jobs in a matter of a couple of weeks, and then do the jobs of people who've been at the company for 8 years in some cases. It's called a subject matter expert. I'm like a vigilante corporate mercenary. The radioflux of the 10.7 centimeter variety is up to 76 now, which is what we like to see, an indication of another solar cycle progressing toward solar maximum. There is the graph of the sunspot number and the radioflux progression. Let's zoom in on the radioflux progression. For once, we haven't done it for a while. There are the past 3 years approximately. And let's move on. The KP index is currently at 1. And there you can see those couple of B-class flares there. In the middle of the B range there. B2 and a half, I believe. Somewhere around there. B1. Only a B1. No, that's not right. That needs to be updated. But in any case, those are B2.6, 2.6, 2.7, similarly classed flares there. Proton flux doesn't show any significant signs of perturbation. Let's look at the solar wind station. So the phi angle, once again, just like yesterday, has been shifting around for the past 6 hours. We see a decrease in the solar wind density over that same period and an increase in the solar wind speed over that period. Anyway, current figures are 3.9, about 4 protons per cubic centimeter is the solar wind density, about 350 kilometers per second is the solar wind speed. Let's take a look at a visualization of the magnetosphere. And we're going to play this 4 hours of data, and I'm going to vanish. Only soon to return. After this, we will show you ground magnetic perturbations. And we see the main magnetohydrodynamic pressure is on the non-sun facing side of the planet in the magnetotail region. In other words, around midnight local time is where the magnetosphere is the strongest right now. Next, looking at global magnetic perturbations. Since we're living through a polar excursion, we show 4 hours of this data daily. And I'm going to let that play through a second time for you. So not a lot of that is induced by solar protons right now. And that's 4 hours of data courtesy University of Michigan. Here's the GOES magnetometer, and I've reappeared. We're solidly in the North Pole current sheet. Here is the Gong 2 data, part of the National Sunspot Observatory. It's the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And this shows you the polarity of the current sheet. Green is North Pole, red is South Pole. Nothing too exciting happening there. Here's the line of sight field plot, which also shows the B field in blue. And we see some pretty significant changes there in the B field. They're largely associated with sunspot 2776. And we'll be keeping an eye on that new active region rising to let you know, probably before anybody else in the world, if it's sunspot 2778 or not. Sunspot 2777 is currently setting over the southeastern limb. Here's the coronal magnetic field plot. And you can see the way sunspot 2776 is affecting the overall field here. And you can see those coronal hole potential field force lines in purple, open potential field force lines in black, and closed potential field force lines in pink. And we've moved on to one of the featured segments here at the Smash News Network. One of the things that prevents us from starting on fire and burning to the ground is the Smash Lights. Today we've got some interesting topics, as we typically do. First, we're going to talk about COVID, because it's very scary and spooky. Pardon the sarcasm. Now, if you've been... Let me put out this fire. By the way, we are streaming live from the bank of the River Styx today. If you're wondering, we've set up our news desk here on the banks of the River Styx. Apparently, COVID has died and gone to Gehenna or Acheron or Hell or some other weird dimension. Sorry about that, COVID. I didn't know you were invading this plane of existence as well. Nobody's scared of you here either. If you follow smashomash.com/forum, and let's cut this feed and go back to the webpage. Get the River Styx that producers. All right, thank you. If you follow smashomash.com/forum, you would notice that we had a coronavirus section in the free-for-all forum. It's now 31 pages long. We started covering COVID every day except for, I think, one day over a 6-month period. And yeah, it's in the free-for-all forum, smashomash.com/forum. And if you notice, what I was saying on January 23rd was that coronaviruses aren't particularly dangerous, especially for healthy people. If you have things like vitamin D sufficiency, zinc sufficiency, and you do not have deficiencies in those vitamins and minerals, you're very, very unlikely to die of COVID. And now we're experiencing a case-demic of propaganda, hysteria, and complete nonsense about a disease that's utterly treatable, not particularly dangerous, and the only real risk category that's relevant would be people who are already at risk of dying from anything due to old age. Have you checked out AmericasFrontlineDoctors.com? Yes, AmericasFrontlineDoctors.com. People like Dr. Simone Gold, James Tadaro, Richard Urso, and others follow their Twitter accounts as they're constantly putting out real truth about the COVID instead of the hysterical nonsense designed to get you to believe all kinds of BS and justify all kinds of pathetic attempts at government overreach. So, I don't know, make sure you follow them on all their social media. Check out their videos. If you click on media, they've got videos, including this one recently produced, I believe it was Saturday night. And so they are gaining some traction here. Dr. Simone Gold is also a lawyer who was fired from her job as an ER nurse, and apparently she doesn't photograph very well. They've got a lot of bad still images of Dr. Gold. In any case, America's Frontline Doctors, the gold standard on real information. Talk about the gold standard on Twitter. We've only got 68 followers. We've got 68 followers over on Twitter. And yeah, we've got links to the Teespring store. That's one of the latest designs there. Congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. Please let us know in the comments if you're scared and spooked. Speaking of the comments, let me check the life of the stream, and we are fine. Let's get back to the Smash News Network. We also post links to our videos on there. Thanks to Smash staff for all of her hard work. Please give her a raise by becoming a patron, donating through one-time donations, or perhaps checking smashomash.com/affiliate to see some interesting objects that we've shopped for just for you, our viewer. We've also got all kinds of retweets. Anyway, social media has now been revealed to be run by petulant sociopaths whose goal is for you to see exactly what content they want you to see under the guise of protecting us. Yes. Yes. The effort to bring down... anyway, we're focusing on all kinds of different subjects over here at Twitter, twitter.com/smashomash. We're also on Facebook, and we've got that Teespring shirt link there. Shout out to... what's that guy's name? Vernon something or other? Who did a crowd surf. Attracting the ire of a lot of people who are very scared and spooked because they've got this scary, spooky thing hovering above their head because they've lost their you-know-what about it. And they're afraid to even click on their mouse, go to smashomash.com/affiliate, buy a UV wand like this one, and just eradicate that thing. I mean, really? Please. Not dangerous for healthy people. Not even dangerous for most unhealthy people. Chris Christie even recovered from COVID. Let's talk cosmology. Why are we looking at a periodic chart? Well, I'm vanishing so you can see the whole periodic chart. And the reason we're looking at the periodic chart is because in the realm of cosmology and astronomy, everything outside of this purple box is considered a metal. Why is that? It's because people think that helium and hydrogen were created in the Big Bang and everything else was created in the cores of stars. Have you considered the possibility that perhaps these heavy elements are created in the atmospheres of stars? Perhaps this explains. Does this explain why there's so much hydrogen and so little of everything else, especially in things like cosmic rays, galactic scale jets, etc.? Some of us believe it does. Some of us, some people think that these heavy elements are coming out of atmospheres of stars. And so in any case, Metalicity is super important in cosmology. We've got a cosmology segment here at smashamash.com/forum. It's an entire forum devoted to cosmology. And one of the topics there is the most. We've recently updated that as there's been an article going around the internet about the highest metallicity. So right now we're looking at images of magnetars. There's a magnetar near Sagittarius A star, which orbits it at only a 1 light year distance, allegedly. And again, it's very hard to measure these sorts of things. But let's talk about RBCEXT8. It's the most metal-poor globular cluster ever measured. So it's part of the outskirts of the Andromeda Galaxy. There's a diagram of where it's located. Here's a close-up of it. And you can, like a lot of times, globular clusters are considered galaxies depending on how far on the outskirts they are. This one's also called NGC 6441. And so this has this has 2 orders of magnitude less metal than what would be expected to need to be inside of a globular cluster. As globular clusters are considered mature structures, they're basically miniature galaxies. They need to be symmetrical to be considered a globular cluster, basically a spherical shape overall. And these are believed to be old stars, yet they also appear to be very hot stars. And so, while globular clusters are already known to be metal poor, we found one here that's exceptionally metal poor, and it challenges the theories of everything from the Big Bang to star formation to galaxy formation. And we've linked here to earthsky.org. There's one of the lead articles there is about low metallicity globular cluster, whatever it's called. And when we look into deep space, one of the ways that we can figure out what's going on out there is by looking at spectral absorption. So we see emission spectra, but we also see absorption spectra. So where you'd expect to see certain things, if you see a lack of that element, it indicates that it's absorbing those frequencies of the spectrum. And since it's absorbing those frequencies of the spectrum, those frequencies are at odd dips, anomalous dips, which indicate a high amount of those metals. So in any case, this particular globular cluster, 1,600 times less magnesium than the Sun. The Sun is believed to be a high metal star in that classical astronomy considers our solar system as a Generation 2 solar system, because since there's heavy elements there, quite a bit of heavy elements, as you're a heavy element. As you're primarily made of things, well, you've got a lot of hydrogen, but you've also got a lot of heavy elements in your composure. So an interesting situation here, and yet another challenge to classical cosmology. Why would globular clusters form that way? And it challenges your basic cosmology. Today's featured object is the Crab pulsar, which is the point of light at the center of the Crab Nebula. So the Crab Nebula is super famous. You've probably seen it a million times. in all kinds of different imagery, different composite wavelengths. It's a very consistent X-ray source, as you can see here on the historic graph going back to 2004. And it's just basically featured because I keep an eye on certain objects, and when I say eye on, the pun's intentional. Here's a zoom in of the Crab Nebula, and the pulsar's right in the middle there. It's not going to show you a lot of detail on that. If we switch to X-rays, there you go. There's a close-up of the X-ray flux. And again, it's a very consistent X-ray source. Now let's talk about consistent X-ray sources. Here's an inconsistent X-ray source, Deneb, aka Cygnus X3. We finally figured out the contest. There's a very limited time now. You've got only 1 week to enter. And all you've got to do is log into smashamash.com/forum and type sign me up. The sweepstakes deadline is October 26, 2020. So the October contest drawing will occur on October 27th. Winner of the new t-shirt design will be chosen via random quantum number generator and will receive free gifts simply for posting sign me up on our forum. Even if you're an international viewer, Teespring ships to all those locations. So enter now, begin telling your friends and family and others about cosmic rays, celestial pole stars, geomagnetic induction, the ancients, Göbekli Tepe precession, cosmology, and more. Also, don't forget to apply the 10% discount code MANSA for all Teespring merch, which is linked at smashamash.com. The promo code MANSA expires on November 1st, 2020, so get your custom clothes before that. Everything will be revamped after that. There may be some products that aren't even available. If you're wondering where that is from, check smashamash.org, which will redirect you to smashamash.com. It'll show you the social media, and these particular things are in the smAsho store. So for example, we've got some new designs here, 4 different COVID designs. So you've got smAsho Price My First Pandemic, and you've got I've Survived a Global Pandemic So Far. Because life is risky, and for all the people who only figured that out in 2020, what were you thinking? What planet were you living on? Seriously, you just learned how to wash your hands because of that? Are you kidding me? What a joke. What a joke. I mean, look, life is risky. Whether you drive a car, do you drive a car every day? Are you a complete driving hack? Do you not know anything about driving? Perhaps subscribe to our playlist. That's youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. There's one all about just driving, pro driving tips, riding tips, etc. But in any case, if you just figured out that life is risky in 2020, maybe you should read about really dangerous diseases like malaria, or really dangerous communicable diseases like antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis, which has been around the whole time and for some reason is not on the WHO's list of diseases to monitor. Let's talk about the thermosphere. As I brought it up yesterday, the Thermosphere Climate Index. Now, I would note that here's where the thermosphere is currently. See that? There's 2020. There's the thermosphere. Here's the thermosphere in 2009 and 2010. What's the relevance? Well, the thermosphere was colder in 2009 and 2010 than it is now. You see that? So let's go back to the... See this? This is not as cold as it was at the last solar minimum. Let's talk about cosmic rays. Cosmic rays are not as high as they were at the last solar minimum. So here they are. There you go. There's October 2005 through October 2020. There's sunspot cycle. There's cosmic ray flux. The relationship between cosmic ray flux and sunspot cycle is not understood. Let me vanish. Check the life of the stream before I show this slide, because this one's even better. Here's the Oulu neutron monitor, which is shown right on spaceweather.com. You can see this chart right there. There is the transition between cycle 23 and cycle 24. Here's a sunspot number progression lined right up with cosmic ray flux at Oulu. And you can clearly, 100% clearly see why certain people are cherry-picking only this data. Oh, it's the highest since 2015. I mean, you could say it's the highest since 2011 if you want to cherry-pick data. But there's more cosmic ray data. So for everybody who's feeding you outright lies about what cosmic ray flux really is, I challenge them to show me something that refutes this information. I've just showed you 2 custom charts lined up with sunspot number where we see 2009 and 2010 at higher cosmic ray flux levels, both at Mexico City, pressure-corrected cosmic ray flux data, and at Oulu. That's the end of the cosmology segment, and part of the reason why I occasionally add that to the daily space weather is because all of your weather comes from space. If you want to read about our mission, check out smashomash.com/forum/mission, as we are interested in things like a unified theory of physics. That's why we do the cosmology segments. We do the smash lights, and generally we do the videos. That's really the overall mission here. We're interested in advancing the science, so no matter how idiotic, egocentric, arrogant, and stupid and ignorant people generally are on places like YouTube, we still stream live to Twitch like we're doing now. If you enjoy the content on YouTube, press like and subscribe over there. Why you haven't subscribed over at twitch.tv/smashamash, I have no idea, since we make a lot of the videos live and you'd see them immediately. And you know, you'd be driven by a different corporate slave driving oligarch by being over at twitch.tv/smashamash. We're also on bitshoot.com/smashamash. There's exclusive content such as a 7-month-old video talking about hydroxychloroquine, which got demonetized on YouTube, caused us to pull it down, put it only exclusively on BitChute. And there's other exclusive stuff over there. Look for more of that coming throughout the winter. If we don't get banned from YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, I'll be surprised. But some of us are a little bit more strategic and a little bit less stupid about putting up content. So here ends today's Smash Light segment. Let's look at the electron flux, as we typically do at this time. There's a 1-year chart of the relativistic electrons. We're looking at greater than 2 mega electron volts. Charging hazards are fairly non-existent. Here is the forecast, and we're expecting flat levels as you don't get much lower than this. We saw a serious cratering of electrons just in the past 8 hours. And if you're a new viewer, keep in mind that this measurement is being made at noontime local time for the satellite, midnight local time for the satellite. That's what these N's and M's mean, telling you where the GOES 16 is located in reference to the sun at the time of the measurement. Here's a visualization of the air column. This will tell you where GPS errors will be rampant. And we see once again some significant electron flux anomalies over North America, including directly over me, meaning my GPS would have been off by somewhere between 30 meters and 300 miles during that period. I'll let that play through a second time. You can see the entire mid-Atlantic region gets a significant electron flux there. Otherwise not too anomalous. Let's look at just one layer of the atmosphere. That was the whole thing, thermosphere down to the lithosphere. Here's just the ionosphere layer. And this is looking less anomalous than it was yesterday and the day before. And the only reason I can say that is because I look at it daily. Most of our viewers can probably agree. And they probably wonder why we have less than 1,700 subscribers on YouTube. In any case, there's the latest image. Looking not all that abnormal there at 9:15 Universal Time. I like to use star charts at in-the-sky.org, as I'm always interested in things like when Deneb will set. If you want to read all about Deneb, there's a whole forum thread at smashomash.com/forum in the cosmology section. Yes, it might be more important than you may think. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. By the way, we're seeing a very close pass to Mars here, sort of fading out. So there should be some great imagery about Mars if you want to go look that up. I don't know. I don't really care. I'm more interested in how the sun works, since the sun is the Rosetta Stone of all of cosmology. There's where things will be in a week. On November 1st, where did the summer and fall go? Has time accelerated? We see a big quake happening as I did show prep in the Dominican Republic. It's only a 5.0. But lots of deep quakes kicking off here. So if you're in an earthquake-prone zone, folks, I would have an earthquake plan if I were you. I'm not really in an earthquake-prone zone, but if you're in areas such as these, have a bug-out bag. Have some understanding of what will happen when society suddenly breaks down. You could have extended power outages, large portions of buildings falling to the ground, bridges, etc. Know which building facades will collapse if you plan to evacuate yours in the event of a large quake. We've been seeing a drought of 7, 8, and 9 magnitude earthquakes. So there's a deep quake in Indonesia. It's only a 4.3 magnitude, but it's at over 180 kilometers. Here's a Bolivian quake, one of the deepest we've ever reported under South America, at 535.8 kilometers depth and a 4.3 magnitude. Another deep quake in Indonesia, deep quake at the Fiji Islands, about 2 hours after that Indonesian quake. Another deep quake at Fiji, very deep, over 580 kilometers and a 4.2 magnitude. So nothing over a 6. We're experiencing a 6, 7, and 8 magnitude earthquake drought. There's another deep one over Bolivia. A deep quake over Afghanistan. I should say under Afghanistan. Next, look at the volcanoes. We see a bit of an uptick in volcanic activity as well here over the past 3 days. Volcanoes exploding, flight level 070, that's a 7,000-foot ash plume. Popocatépetl, volcanic ash not seen in satellite or webcam. Please don't attempt to pole vault the caldera. Pacaya exploding, Fuego exploding, Sangay exploding, Revenador exploding, Sabancaya exploding, producing ash plumes between 10 and 24,000 feet, respectively. Let's look at some weather stuff. Weather.org. It's not weather.org. It's weather.gov. What is weather.org? Is that even a thing? I'm not scared. Are you scared to type in a URL? Well, if you're scared to type a URL, here's a little bit of wisdom for you. Have you ever heard of Scamvoid? If you go to scamvoid.net, you can type in a website, such as, smashomash.org, and you will find it's potentially safe. Who could have guessed? Well, we're not hack frauds, so we've got a potentially safe website. Please visit the links at it. Let's look at the jet streams here. There's the Western world, and look at these extreme meridional jet stream bends here over the Atlantic Ocean. Funky. Perhaps this is a vortex where the Kraken is emerging from the North Atlantic. Here is the jet stream situation of the Eastern world. We've got water vapor maps. But first, we've got windy.com's snow depth map. And check it out. If you thought Greenland was melting, it's now gaining mass. Once again, it's got more than 5 meters of snow in most areas. Also, check it out. People are really scared and spooked that, oh my God, Antarctica is going to melt. Were you aware that Antarctica formed 33 million years ago when the planet was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it currently is? Here's the snow situation over the U.S. We've got some in the... Would that be the White Mountains? Would that be the Green Mountains? Let us know, Keebs. Also, please subscribe to Keebs, Mr. Keebs Music, his ukulele covers. It's splentacular. Anyway, there's the snowfall situation over the U.S. And we've got as much as 22 inches over Montana. We're not going to show you pressure maps today. Here's what the lightning situation is. I think. We're at lightningmaps.org. I'm sure. I'm 100% sure. And I've turned the audio on. We're getting hard lag. We're going to move on. Anyway, we see some lightning here on the lightning mapper, the NASA GOES 16 lightning mapper over Arkansas and Missouri. we are experiencing technical difficulties. Let me shut down that audio. A lot of lightning strikes happening as we make the video today. Next, looking at the U.S. Doppler radar map. A bunch of snow still falling in the northern plains and northern Rockies, and some heavy storms there over Arkansas and Missouri especially. We've got huge pressure gradients. We're going to show you the water vapor map of that area. And shout out to our viewers from those regions. There's a good indication of how it's going to work. And that stuff is moving practically due east, and it's moving pretty slowly, as this dry air isn't giving it very much of a shove. It's kind of suspended down there by cold, wet air. Remember, cold air is more massive than hot air, and dry air is more massive than wet air. Thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding for the content. Please consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/smAsho. We send out things early to our patrons in most situations. Don't forget to head to the smAsho station at smAshomash.org, smAshomash.com. Visit all the social media links, whichever one you prefer. Tell your friends and foes to join the Smash team. Share on your social media, etc. Thanks for flying American Smashways. We've got bonus features in the form of the 94 angstroms 48-hour SDO video, the solar intensity gram to show you the close-ups of that sunspot. It's 2776. It's a beta-class sunspot, still to this day. As we've got we've got a growing, trailing umbra there. So check it out. This umbra here in the back looks like it's gained intensity since we started the show. And this one, the South Pole leading umbra there, looks like it has lost a little bit of intensity. Could be some flaring kicking off. Keep an eye on it. And there you can see those regions, sunspot 2776, a series of umbrae. Nothing yet in the northeast. Here's a 94 angstroms view. It's 48 hours. It's from the SDO. We are out. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink it if you don't drive it, since it'll never be now again. May that solar wind be at your back, and those COVIDiots absent from your doorstep.